Hello and welcome to Unprofessional Engineering, live from MIT.
And you got Luke.
I'm James. This is
exciting.
I'm pretty sure we're going to draw the largest crowd ever seen.
On the MIT campus?
Yes, correct. Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Wow, glad they call it MIT and not that.
That's a mouthful, huh?
It's a big mouthful.
So today, Luke, we are going to be talking about engineering degrees.
Of course.
What kind of jobs you can expect to get with that, and how much money you'll be making if you score one of these great degrees.
I also have some ideas on if you're bad at engineering.
What you might choose to do.
Kind of like us. What you might choose
podcast?
to do. Podcasting, marketing. I also have some advice for new students when it comes to like the demand for the different types of engineering jobs, and the ones you might not, if you're in the middle of doing it, you might want to change your major.
Okay, I like it. I also had a little information that for each of these things, we're going to break down what school is best to go to earn your degree.
See, I didn't do that much research.
I have a trick. It's MIT.
They win a lot of categories here, in my opinion.
All right, so let's get into this a little bit, and we'll start by talking about some of the different types of engineering degrees that you can get out there, and what you might do with them.
Yeah.
So my first is aerospace or aeronautical engineering.
This is a good one.
It is?
This is a very good one.
Why do you say that?
Because it has a lot of projected jobs.
Okay.
And
I
it
did see
also
that.
has some decent growth. Like of all the engineerings that I did the research for,
All the engineerings?
that probably has like the second best growth of all the ones I've seen.
I like it. So this branch of engineering deals with research, design, development, testing of aircrafts. So
This is like
aircraft-
airfoils.
Airfoils? Sure.
Yeah, so like predominantly
I like to think
what you
you're
need
going to work
fly.
for Boeing or
Lockheed Martin.
Lockheed or maybe NASA or someone like that.
Yeah.
If you're going to get this degree. So that's a lot of fun. I actually had a friend in college that was an aerospace engineer at Penn State with me.
Aeronautical? So that's like water too? Nautical?
No.
Aeronautical.
Don't worry about it.
Okay.
Anyways, long story short, he did really well, never had to study, but then he didn't really feel like getting a job, so he just kept working at Outback. So
Hey,
it doesn't
know.
always. So there's an alternative.
Hey, to each their own, right,
That's
James?
right. Yep. So if you're fascinated by history and methodology behind flying machines, from early sketches to advanced modern jets, maybe this is something for you. Or maybe you want to help get a man on Mars.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
Because we already did the moon, right?
The moon's like old
That's
news.
passé.
How long has it been since anyone's been there? Like 40 years or
long
something?
time.
Yeah, that's kind of strange to me.
Although I did see something today. Did you know 200 people have lived on the International Space Station?
I did a whole episode on the International Space Station, or space stations in general.
Did you know there were 200 people that have lived on it?
I did,
Okay,
yes.
sorry.
Go listen to that one.
Sorry.
You must have missed it
Yeah.
in the archives.
Anything that I didn't do with you, I don't listen to.
So mechanics and flight travel, all important here.
Okay.
You're intrigued by computer simulation because things like NASTRAN were set up for
Specifically
space
for
travel
NASA,
for
right?
NASA, correct. And for those of you who don't know NASTRAN, that's a big finite element analysis solver kind of thing. So if you're going to be doing simulations, maybe this is a good place for you.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I like that one.
Okay.
I think that one would be a difficult one because it's like
I feel it's very niche. Is that it?
And
Niche?
a lot of lives depend on that. Like, if you mess up, like,
Oh yeah.
people die.
What was the one that the spaceship that blew up?
Yeah, when I was
Discovery?
in grade
Was
school
that
or
it?
something like that, I
don't know.
remember
Challenger?
that happened.
Maybe
Yeah,
it was a Challenger,
Yeah,
yeah.
I feel like it's a dangerous one. Like, if you
Yeah.
mess up, it's bad.
But there's a lot of jobs out there, so that's good.
There is.
So next on my list is chemical engineering.
Chemical. See, I don't even think of that. I think of that as chemistry more than anything.
Well, that would be a reason that I'm not in chemical engineering. My one chemistry class, I got a C in, which was great. Granted, there were like 500 people in my class.
Did you try?
I did.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
This is a funny story for this one. I took my first class, or my first test in that class, and I went over to my brother's apartment afterwards, and I started crying because I got literally like a 45 on the test.
That was the worst you probably ever
Yeah, that's
did,
the worst
ever.
I'd ever done in my life. I was bawling, and he was like, "Dude, you got a 45 without the curve? Oh man, you aced that thing."
Oh, that's too funny.
So it ended up being an okay grade.
Okay,
but
good.
It was kind of funny.
I like that.
So this type of engineering concerns the the use of chemicals and biological processes to produce materials and substances.
So this isn't chemistry.
So it is chemistry.
Oh,
like
okay.
you're mixing material or mixing chemicals to make materials,
Okay.
things like that. And so I guess like people that are making any new material,
I would
like
think
the
if
really
you're-
lightweight
I would
stuff
think maybe if
that's
you're
still
making
strong.
plastics, right?
Yeah,
'Cause
plastics is a big one.
Yeah, I
Yep.
imagine there's a lot of chemical engineering going on there.
Yeah, so you need to have a very analytical mindset for this one. You have to obviously like chemistry, like in high school, and nature and science.
Yeah.
Those things all factor into this.
Okay.
And you like the chemical processes behind everyday things. You're the
Okay.
ones who would mix cleaners and they'd start smoking in the
Okay.
yeah. So you don't have any info on chemical engineering because you don't consider it
no,
engineering?
So chemical engineering, it has a pretty low projected job growth
Is that
through
right?
2022.
Wow,
it's only
that
like
surprises
it's only
me.
like 4.5%, but it's one of the highest paid. So the average annual salary is $100,000, like
That's pretty
100,
good.
103. That's if you consider average, that's
Yeah.
actually pretty good.
Yeah, that is pretty good. So for chemical engineering, plant design, process engineering, and process design, or things like that would also be something up your alley with this degree.
Yeah.
So I know in the pecking order of all things engineering, chemical is up there pretty high.
Yeah.
People think of them as pretty smart dudes.
You probably
or
be one of the
dudettes.
smarter ones.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Do you have any on your list that you want to talk about, or should I just keep running down mine?
I feel like you could keep on running down them because some of these I don't even feel like are engineers.
Okay, well, the next one most people probably question if they're engineers, and that is civil engineering.
Civil. I feel like the civil engineering isn't even
Yeah.
engineering.
The police are driving by on the MIT campus right now, giving us a dirty look.
stink
But-
eye.
The stink eye, yeah.
Okay.
But that's okay. We could take them.
Yeah.
All right, so civil engineers, barely engineers. They're the
Barely.
lowest of the low when it comes to engineering because what do? You build a road.
You move-
okay.
you move dirt.
Dump more cement. You build a bridge.
Nobody-
All right.
nobody
put
dies.
A pillar. Yeah. Build a building. Well, there's also architects involved in that, so you barely have to do anything. And look how many big buildings have been built already. This isn't very difficult,
No.
right?
No.
The old saying we had was civil engineers build targets and mechanical engineers blow them up. So
I like that.
and it's not really always true. Civil engineers are smart and they do good work, but I mean there is a lot of road design,
Yeah.
making sure that water drains properly, tunneling through mountains. I don't think it's all that difficult, but
But that's you.
but that's just me. Maybe it is difficult. I've never been a civil
Okay, so
engineer.
interesting thing about civil engineers.
tell me.
It has one of the highest potential job growth through all these are through 2022.
Well, you have to
It's
build
like
roads.
20%. And I think what it is, we have a lot of aging infrastructure here in the United
That
States.
we do.
And I think that civil engineering, there's just tons of room for that just because there's so many roads that need to be built. Bridges need to be reworked, re-cemented, all the different things they do. So it has one of the highest. There's going to be 120,000 projected civil engineering jobs. The problem is these cats only make like 90 grand a year.
Yeah, on average or on the high end?
That's average.
Oh, okay. Well, that's still okay.
Yeah, I guess.
It's only 10 less than your average chemical.
Yeah, okay, maybe that's not that bad.
Do you ever think maybe you should sit closer to the microphone so that people can hear you?
Sometimes.
Okay, well, I was just putting that out there.
You were the worst.
I am. So some of the specializations civils would get into is kind of what we talked about already. Structural engineering, which again could use some simulation software in that. Architectural engineering, transportation engineering, geotechnical, environmental, and hydraulic engineering. And I guess we could throw it out there that these are kind of like the main classes.
Yeah.
So you could be an environmental engineer and specialize just in that and get
Yeah.
a degree in that. But why would you do that? Then you can work in like 3 places.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes if you're too specialized, you're really kind of pigeonholing yourself. There's only so many companies that do that. You got to you always have to move if it's a specialty just because of the companies that are hiring those types of jobs. Like an aeronautical engineer.
Right.
You're not going to live in Pittsburgh and be an aeronautical engineer.
Right. When I was getting my ME degree, I talked to I guess you had like a counselor or someone set to ask if I should dual major in nuclear. My advisor, that's the one. And they said, nuclear, well, why? You're already a mechanical. And I'm like, well, then I'd have those job opportunities. And they were like, oh, no, there's a lot of those jobs out there. And then they run out of nukies and just hire a mechanical anyways. So I've come to find that mechanicals are just kind of like the stopgap. Like, oh, we ran out of this. Well, we'll just get a mechanical, and they just throw you in there.
I think mechanicals are jack of all trade, master of none.
Absolutely not a master of anything here.
Okay.
Next on my list, another one you don't believe in, is the computer engineer.
So these are guys that play...
They play World of Warcraft all day.
Yeah, and that army shooter game.
Call of Duty?
Call of Duty. That's what these guys do.
Okay.
They play on computers?
I think so.
Okay.
Actually, they are kind of like a mix of electrical engineers and computer science majors.
Okay.
So you mix those things together, and they're the ones that end up working on hardware and software. So that seems kind of important.
So these are cats
right?
working for like Intel, doing like prototyping and development of new PC hardware.
Right. They also know
servers.
how to code and write programs. So a lot of programmers have like comp eng or comp sci degrees.
Let me see what I got on computer engineer. So, not a lot of growth, but
a lot of money.
They do average 110 grand a year. Whoa.
That's
I think
pretty good.
I may have chose the wrong major.
You did. I mean, then again, we might not be able to fake it in that one. We're doing okay with our lack of knowledge here.
We are.
Funny story, again, from college. My first semester, or 2 semesters, I decided I was going to be a computer engineer.
Okay.
And the first computer programming, I think it was Comp Sci 103, if I remember correctly, I took... And I did well in the course, but it was so miserable looking for a misplaced semicolon or something like that I dropped out of computer engineering right after that course.
The level of ADD you have, I can't imagine that programming is something you were ever good at.
No, it was not a specialty of mine.
Just checking.
Yeah, so again, if you're interested in something like this or think you might be, I wonder if it's like high schoolers that are listening to us for this one, or maybe it's people thinking about going back for a degree, or maybe they're like us where it's like, oh, I picked the wrong one, and now they're just listening to feel bad.
Well, the thing that like I said, I want to cover after we do our break here. I want to make sure that we talk about things that engineers can do that aren't in engineering.
Okay. So if you're interested in math, science, computers, and want to learn how they operate at a physical level, this is probably where you should be spending your time. So when you talked a little bit about the kind of jobs that they would get, computer architecture, microcontroller systems, microprocessors, things like that. So that's kind of neat.
And you're going to say electrical engineers are engineers?
Electrical engineers are engineers.
Yeah, they are. But how come, like, mechanicals, do you know the answer to this? Why do mechanical engineers and electrical engineers never seem to get along?
Well, it's the same reason, like just the civil thing, like how I was like ripping on the civils, the electricals rip on the mechanicals.
Okay.
Because they're pretty smart too.
Okay.
I hate to admit it. I did take one EE 305, I think it was, at Penn State, and I was actually one of 6 students in the class of about 150 that had to retake my first test because my score was so bad that the professor assumed that there was something wrong with the grading. So 6 of us got to retake it, and I was like, it turns out I'm just really bad at this.
Oh, yeah.
So that was a lot of fun. So electrical engineers or electronics engineers are focused on the application of electrical power. So how hard can that be? Like, it's in parallel, it's in series.
Watts, volts,
amps, right?
Yeah.
So we basically are EEs at this point.
Basically.
So that's pretty cool. What kind of stuff would you do with that? Communications, media, computer systems, robotics. I guess right now robotics is probably the hot area.
Yeah, well,
There's
the other thing
probably
too
a lot of
is
job growth there, I'm
with
guessing.
electrical engineers, I mean, everything that's built nowadays, cars, buildings themselves are, all, wired, pre-wired, and literally everything has electronics in it. So my guess is that being an electrical engineer, you got a lot of opportunities. You could go work for an automotive manufacturer. You could go work for, maybe like a prefabrication, housing place. You could definitely work, obviously, for hardware companies.
Sure.
Lots and lots of options there.
I'm a little bit surprised that you didn't go this path because kind of like if you're into taking stuff apart like radios and looking at the resistors.
I have a funny story about why I
capacitors.
didn't, James.
You're not very
smart. You ready for the segue? Point taken. No, I'm actually colorblind.
Oh, that's right.
So I think I told you the story. I was doing one of my first jobs out of school. They needed someone to help do wiring, so they called me in the back room and said, "Hey, we're going to show you how to wire up these, RGB connectors." And he shows me, and I made like 300 cables, and like 50% of my cables were failing. And here he's like, show me what you're doing. Why are you doing it wrong? And he cut the end off, and I said, well, I take that green and white, and I put it to the green and white on the other end. He said, point to that again. And he mixed up the wires, and I pointed to the brown and white, and then I pointed to the blue and white. So basically, I had a hard time seeing the colors.
That
so
makes sense.
That's why I was not
is.
an electrical engineer.
I guess that's a good reason.
Yeah, so interesting thing about electrical engineer is they actually make more than mechanicals, average.
I told you they're higher on the pecking order.
Yeah.
What do they make?
So they start out at $100K a year, but their growth is just a little bit above mechanical.
Okay.
And I think that's just because maybe they're a little more specialized and they
are.
can, because mechanical, again, is that jack of all trades.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about mechanical.
Yeah.
And that'll be the last one that we talk about before our break here. And so that's the oldest and broadest of all of the types of engineering. And it's the best because I'm one of them. So
Yes, for sure.
That's how it goes. So it's all about manufacturing, maintenance of mechanical systems, cams and gears and engines
Anything.
and all that jazz. So I feel like it's a very big lie. You think that you're going to be like working on cars. You kind of think you're going to be a mechanic.
Yeah.
Or maybe a high-level mechanic. Not the case.
Yeah.
All you're going to end up doing is working on PowerPoint and Excel and
running
Outlook
reports.
and running reports. Yeah.
You need to know Excel
Yeah.
very, very well if
Yep.
you're going to be a mechanical engineer.
Yep. So if you like fiddling with mechanical devices, kind of like you, taking
Yeah.
stuff apart, rigging them up back together, things like that, this is a great major for you.
And again,
And there's a bajillion of us out there.
There's a bajillion, and that's a little bit of a detriment because I think because it's so general and there is so many of us, it makes it really difficult when you go to apply for a job and literally you're doing the exact same thing someone else is doing.
Yeah. That does make it
So
difficult.
it's interesting. You said you're going to talk about schools. I think what happens with mechanical engineering then, when you got like two different people applying for the same job, I think what happens is they start to look at what school did you go to, because schools have, better engineering programs or worse engineering programs.
Right.
So I think that starts to happen in like the engineering field when hiring's happening.
Agreed. So before we get into that and which schools you should be attending, let's take a break for a word from our sponsor.
We have a sponsor this week?
This week, I think we should be sponsored by MIT.
And Starbucks on the MIT campus. Thank you.
Look at that. Thanks, Starbucks. These were actually free because they knew we were going to be doing this.
No, they weren't free.
They weren't?
I don't think we're allowed to say that legally.
Oh, really? Oh, they were not free. Thanks a lot, Starbucks. I did want to throw something out there, though.
Okay.
Unprofessional Engineering has been invited for the first time to attend an event. We're going to be going to Autodesk University.
That'll be nice. Right before
is.
Thanksgiving?
Right before Thanksgiving in the Las Vegas area, where we're going to be interviewing a lot of the people that work at Autodesk
Some of
and
the
their
executives.
customers.
Yep.
Talking about what they use the software for and I don't know, things like that. And of course, we're going to be podcasting live there as well.
So if you happen to be at AU, make sure you
happen to be
stop
there.
by the booth. We'll be in the exhibit area. As we get more information, we'll let you know where we're at and what's going on. But we'll have stickers and T-shirts and all kinds of giveaways.
Oh man, so many giveaways.
And we're going to be bringing kind of that Autodesk AU experience to some of our listeners.
That's right. And on the same path with these giveaways, if you subscribe to Unprofessional Engineering, email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com and you can let us know, and we will be sending you some free,
Some sweet
they're
stickers.
super sweet Unprofessional Engineering stickers.
Do you send them two, or do you just give them one?
I send them two.
Nice, a
Yeah.
square and a rectangle.
Yep. I feel like they
Nice.
can share with a friend or family member.
Look
then.
at you.
I'm a considerate guy,
Okay.
at high expense to myself, but that's okay. All right. So we already talked about how much you can expect to make. I'm going to throw a couple more specialized ones in there, let's say.
Okay.
Like biomedical engineering.
That's the worst.
The top 10 percenters are making about $140K, which is pretty
That's
solid.
average, right? So that's
That's
like
the top 10%.
Oh, top 10%.
Their
of that.
average is like 91.
Okay.
Let's see. Computer on the very high end is about 170, which is amazing. Geological and mining on the high end is like 180. And I have to feel like it's because you're risking your life like those guys in Peru, like hanging out in a mine.
Yeah, and I feel like that's super specialized too, but I would have to think that there's going to be a bit of a downturn with something like that, considering renewable energy, considering reliance on fossil fuel. I would think that being involved in solar, so like an electrical engineer, I would think, would do
Solar would be
really
nice.
well with solar
But
kind
again,
of turning
I think
on.
that And we keep saying how these are very specific things. Well, for solar, I'm certain there are mechanical engineers working in that field, a lot of electricals. There's so much going into them that they kind of have to play nicely together.
Yeah, agreed.
So that's all well and good. So before we get into the top schools and where you should be going, do you have anything else you want to add?
So what I want to talk about is
the jobs that you.
No. I want to talk about.
Okay.
I want to talk about the best.
Okay.
The absolute best engineering job you should get for the future. So right now, if you're in engineering and you can still change, do this. Trust me.
It's too late for us, but the rest of you.
But the rest of you. So the absolute best, highest paying, it has the highest growth potential and the most jobs coming up in 2020 is a petroleum engineer, which goes completely contrary to what I just said about renewable energy. But basically, petroleum engineers, the average is 147. They have a 25% growth rate through 2022.
Wow.
And there's going to be over 20,000 jobs between now and 2022. So tons of growth, lots of things going on there.
Petroleum engineering.
Petroleum engineer.
I know my boys at Penn State have some petroleum engineering degrees going on.
And now, if you're in now, so that's the best, and I have to do the worst too as well. So the worst, and this is
I don't like where this is headed.
Yeah, I feel bad for these guys. Like if you're doing one of these degrees, I feel bad. So locomotive engineering.
Do they still make those things?
Apparently they do.
Are they actually engineers, or are you just saying like the guy that drives the locomotive?
It's the research. So, okay, we'll take locomotive off and we'll pick another one that we know is okay.
I feel like I really put you on the spot there. I'm sorry.
So the next one, and actually this one is interesting. Aerospace Engineering. They make decent money. We talked about this, but the growth rate is in the negatives. You said how bad that is. It's in the negatives.
Well, they did just shut down a lot of NASA, right?
Yeah. And then I'll pick another
I feel like
one.
Boeing and Airbus are really like where you're going to be stuck. I guess Lockheed.
Okay, I did find a bad one. Here we go.
Ouch.
So if you're an industrial engineer.
Oh, my brother's one of those.
Yeah, so sorry to hear this for him. Well, he's in now.
Yeah, he's in,
okay.
Yeah.
But they have a negative 3.9% growth rate through 2022.
Get a new job, Greg.
They have one of the lowest average salaries at $57,000.
We used to call them imaginary engineers because they were IEs, so they were imaginary engineers.
I got you.
But if you wanted to score a hot engineering girl, that was the one that you were going into. There were a lot of good-looking engineers in that major.
Okay.
Yeah, and that's important to some people.
I guess.
I mean, if you're into that sort of thing.
Okay, so
schools?
Are you going to do schools?
I'm going to do schools.
Or do you want me to do the things you could do if you're not an engineer?
Let's save that for last.
That'll be
because
our
I think it'll be the best.
That'll be funny.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the top schools, and this is for general engineering. And a warning, the way that they're coming up with all of this stuff, I have it written out somewhere, is...
Yeah, slow your scroll.
Slow your scroll, boy. Okay. So it's based on pure assessment score.
Okay.
So people, how they say how good the school is.
Okay.
Recruiter assessment. So somebody that's going to hire you, how good they say that your school is. Student selectivity.
Okay.
So the mean GRE score if you're going to grad school, how high your SATs or whatever the other made-up test is. Faculty resources, so student to faculty ratio is important.
Okay.
The percent of faculty in National Academy of Engineering doctoral engineering programs, the number of doctoral degrees awarded, and research activity.
Okay, so this is like a legit score.
So this is a legit score, and it's for everything. So it's not just your undergrad, which most of us are probably thinking about. It's a lot of higher-end education as well.
Okay.
So Penn State's on this list, because that's where I went. They're on there somewhere, but for undergrad, they're 18th right now for overall engiering schools.
It's not too shabby, I guess.
So for the best of the best engineering schools all around, topping off the list, and why we're here today, is the Massachusetts Institute of Technology in Cambridge, Massachusetts. Lucky for you, Luke. Oh, don't look. How much is it going to cost you per year?
$48,000 a year.
Yeah, you looked that up.
No, I know
You saw it on my screen.
So it's interesting. What I noticed in this scoring, because you and I have the same numbers. We did the same thing. And I want to talk about this a little bit. It seems like to some degree there is if it's more expensive, it's better. in some cases, but in some cases
not
not so
necessarily
much.
true, right.
Like number 3 is surprising to me.
Well, let's go with number 2 first.
Okay.
Number 2, Stanford University at $50,000 a year.
Okay.
Now, keep in mind, though, like each of these schools, MIT has 3,100 people enrolled in engineering, and Stanford has 3,600 total graduate engineering enrollment.
Okay.
And then you said what? Berkeley, right?
So this one's interesting.
Because it's number 3.
Because it's number 3, and then the price of it, even if you live in the state of California, this thing's only like $11,000 a year. Super cheap.
That's unbelievable.
Makes me want to move to California when my daughter's ready to go to engineering school.
Yeah.
But then I can't afford to buy a house or
Duquesne does have an engineering program now.
Yeah, they do.
They do. I know. Dr. Bader.
Ooh, interesting.
Yeah.
But even if you're out of state for Cal Berkeley, it's only $26,000 a year.
Yeah,
which is literally half of MIT and half of Stanford, and it's number 3. So I feel like that's bang for the buck. Gotta be the best.
You're gonna go to Berkeley.
That's gotta be the best.
Number 4, Caltech at $45,000, but there's only 543 graduating enrolled engineers.
You're getting a lot of
Very
attention.
Small. Yep. Number 5, our friends at Carnegie Mellon University.
Pittsburgh. Whoop, whoop.
And that's about 43, so we can't afford to go there.
Nope.
Tied there, though, is Michigan.
Yeah, I saw that.
I know. I actually thought about going to Michigan back in the day, but good for them.
That surprises me.
Yeah. But this one's kind of funny. In-state, 24. Out-of-state, 46.
They kill you if you're out of state.
They hate people out of state.
Whew.
Let's just burn through a couple more of these. Georgia Tech, Purdue, Illinois. A lot of Big Ten schools in there.
Yep.
Texas is a big one.
In Texas, that's
and
another one.
it's super cheap.
Yeah.
$10,000.
Or it's 18 if you're out of state.
Yeah.
So again, pretty good bang for the buck being in the top 10.
A&M, also pretty affordable. Texas A&M, that is.
Gotcha.
And that's all I listed because,
I did top 10 myself.
So I'm going to burn through the specialties here.
Okay.
And then you can give us what you do when you suck at engineering. How about that? So aerospace, if you want to pick a school and specialize in aerospace engineering, shockingly, MIT is number 1.
Okay.
Followed by Georgia Tech and Michigan. If you're going to focus on chemical engineering, there's a big surprise.
Let me guess. MIT.
MIT is number 1.
2 for 2.
Followed by Berkeley and then Texas.
Okay.
If you're going into civil engineering, who do you think's number 1?
Duquesne University.
They don't have civil. They only have biomedical. The University of Illinois.
Okay.
In Champaign.
Champlain, I think. There's a plane in there, I think is the way you say it.
Champaign.
That's just how I say it.
Okay. Georgia Tech, again. Georgia Tech's another really good school. And then Cal Berkeley. Computer engineering, MIT is number 1.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Stanford and then Berkeley.
Okay.
Electrical, MIT's number 1, followed by Stanford and Berkeley. I'm getting a theme here.
Yeah, there is a bit of a theme.
And then industrial, the made-up one, is... sorry, Greg, is Georgia Tech's number 1, actually.
Really?
Michigan, and then Purdue. And Penn State's actually number 9, tied with MIT at number 9.
Purdue snuck in there, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
That's Philadelphia, right?
Purdue?
Where's
No,
Purdue?
Purdue's in Indiana, I think.
What am I thinking?
Penn?
Yeah.
Temple?
I'm thinking of Temple. That's what I'm thinking of.
And then mechanical, MIT is number 1, Georgia Tech is number 2, and Stanford is tied for number 2.
I'm surprised that CMU didn't have a lot of other number 1s.
I think they're really high in electrical, like number 4 or number 5.
They got to be high in robotics
their big
too, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. That campus is great. All right. So with the last few minutes, let's hear about what you should do when you get your engineering degree and find out A, you don't like engineering, or B, you're no good at it.
Or C, you don't make enough money.
Or all of the above.
Or all the above. Okay, so the first thing is if you're an engineer and you're relatively well-spoken and you're not kind of the typical, introvert engineer.
Right.
Going into sales as a technical salesperson is a great thing for an engineer to do.
Makes sense.
Because number 1, you know the products, you know how things go together, and you can really work anywhere. Basically, anybody selling any hardware, any software, whatever it is, they always need a technical person to explain it, because salespeople are horrible, let's face it.
This is true. Slimy, soulless.
I mean, you said that, not me. Your words, not mine.
I'm fine with that. I'll go on record with that.
They always need a technical person, number 1, to throw under the bus, Number two, to overwork with, hey, yeah, we can definitely do that, and then you have to make it work.
Even though you can't, right.
But a sales engineer or a technical engineer is a great thing to do, and that can be anywhere.
All right.
The second thing I think is really good, and this is where you and I think
this
fall
is where
in,
we specialize.
is we probably both started doing the sales support engineer,
right?
And then we moved into, because of how good we are doing it,
how good looking we are, how well spoken we are, how personable,
how great I put PowerPoints together.
Oh, you are so very bad at PowerPoint.
Yeah. Spelling apparently is something that matters.
Pictures actually fitting on the screen.
But marketing is actually a really good one, and you wouldn't think of it, and the reason is, if you've ever watched a video and you know that person's not an engineer, that you're listening to or you're seeing as they're talking about it, you can tell they're just reading a script.
Right.
But whenever you are listening to an engineer talk about a product that they know, that they understand how it works, the level of confidence that an engineer brings to marketing, I think is something that is really underrated in engineering. So like our team, I think you and I work really well together because we both have these engineering backgrounds and we kind of understand each other, where if you throw in someone who doesn't have an engineering background and you start to talk things, they're kind of the worst.
They are more than kind of the worst, but yeah, you're correct. I think it all kind of boils down to being able to speak like a human to other humans that aren't highly technical. So being dumber than your normal engineer actually pays off in that sense, because you talk like you're stupid, but you still have a little bit of an understanding.
Now, there's a caveat here. If you're an engineer and you are not good at talking, you're an introvert. You're stuck doing with whatever you're doing.
Right.
You're stuck with the poor pay. You're stuck with doing whatever you're doing, because you can't go into sales, support engineering, or into marketing and not have that kind of personality.
Right. You're pretty much going to be in your cubicle. Stuck. Have you seen Office Space? Yeah,
yes.
That's going to be your life.
Basically.
So good luck with that.
So yeah, so those are two really good things to consider, and you can do this really early in your career too. You don't have to wait until you get tons and tons of experience in engineering. You can get a few years under your belt actually doing it, and then move into some kind of sales support or marketing. Yeah. That's perfect. All right, so with that, I think we're probably going to call it a day. Again, live from MIT.
Yeah. I think this is like our first, maybe our second live visit somewhere.
Yeah, we did Tech Shop Pittsburgh a month or so ago.
Yeah. All right, so I think that's everything. If you have any questions on what degree you should be getting, you probably shouldn't ask us.
No.
But feel free to email us at unprofessionalengineering@gmail.com. Thanks a lot.
See ya.